which I think we should learn an opportune time right before Pesach. It'll get us in the right frame of mind. It's all the dinim of the Korban Pesach, which we'll get a little bit as we go through this Perek Chamishi. And so we're going to be ahead a lot, so we don't have to learn Daf Yomi tomorrow. We can just do the Navi Shir at 8 o'clock. This Nun Ches, Mario, 58 is the new Daf that we would normally do tomorrow, which we'll do tonight. Tamid Nishchat B'Shmona Mechza. Normally the Korban Tamid, right? You bring a Korban Tamid in the morning, and you bring a Korban Tamid in the afternoon. The Korban Tamid in the morning is the first Korban. You can't bring any other Korbanos before you bring that one. And the Korban Tamid in the afternoon is the last Korban. So on a normal day, Tamid Nishchat B'Shmona Mechza was shechted 2.5 hours after Chatzois, at 8.5 hours. The Korev B'Tisho Mechza, and you have to finish the Hakrava by the 9.5 hour. However, by Arvei Pesachim, if Erev Pesach is a Monday, so the Tamid was Nishchat B'Sheva Umechza. They advanced the Shchita of the Korban Tamid by an hour. They advanced it by an hour, Nishchat B'Sheva Umechza. The Korev B'Shmon Mechza, when they were Makrav an hour later, 8.5. Bein B'Chol, Bein B'Shabbos. Tanakama says that time was used whether it's during the week or on Shabbos. I mean, if Erev Pesach fell B'Chol or B'Shabbos, didn't make a difference. They only moved it up to Sheva Mechza. The only difference was Chal Erev Pesach Lios Be'erev Shabbos. If Erev Pesach fell on Friday, so then Nishchat B'Sheshu Mechza. The Tamid was shechted at 6.5. The Korban Sheva Mechza. But Pesach Achra. The Pesach was Makriv afterwards, and they needed to be Makriv the Tamid earlier because they have to shech the Korban Pesach after the Korban HaTamid, and then you have to cook it. You have to broil it before Friday night. You can't broil it on Shabbos. We'll see on Shabbos, you have to broil it after Shabbos. When you shechted it in the daytime, but you broiled it after Shabbos. It's not, the broiling of the Korban Pesach is not Doicha Shabbos. So, Emili, how do you know that the Zman, how do you know when the Zman HaKrov Satami is? On Rav Yeshua ben Levi, the Amar Kra, as a Cheves Echad Taseh Baboiker, as a Cheves Hashni Taseh Ben Arboy, means take the afternoon between 12 and 6, right? You have 2.5 hours in front, 2.5 hours at the end, and an hour in between at 6 hours. So 2.5 hours after the 6th hour is 8.5. Mosif Rava, so Rava asked the Kasha. We said on Erev Pesach, the Korban Tamid was shechted 7.5 and offered b'shmona metzah, bein b'chol, bein b'Shabbos. Whether or not Erev Pesach was chol or Shabbos. Now, the Isaac gedayt b'shmona metzah deraisa, but if the shechting of the Korban Tamid has to be done midaraisa at 8.5, then hechi makdimim. Then how can you advance its shechita? Ela Amar Rava, really, mitzvasu desamid mishiyinatu tzilei erev. Technically, you could start offering you can shech the Korban Tamid the moment it's 1 minute after noon. It's beginning afternoon. My time at Amar Krav, Bein Arbai. The moment that the sun starts moving towards the west. Hilkach. So the rest of the year, not Pesach, the Ikin Nedorim and Nedovis. People have donated korbanos as Nedorim and Nedovis, and they have to be brought. They have to be brought all prior to the afternoon tummy. When it says by the Korban Tamid on it, means the Korban Tamid has to be the last Korban in the afternoon. So therefore, ma'achrin lei tarti shoi. We delay it. Normally, the shechita of the tamid by 2 hours. V'avdina lei b'shmona matzah. Therefore, you have more time to bring the nedarim and nedavos. Now, ba'arvei psachim on erev Pesach the ikka Pesach achrav, since you have to shecht the korban Pesach after kadmina lei shachas. You advance its shechita by an hour. V'avdina lei b'shavu matzah. And then Chal Erev Pesach, Erev Shabbos. The one exception is going to be when Erev Shabbos falls on a Friday. The economic tzliyasa the loidachi Shabbos. The roasting of the korban Pesach is not doichet Shabbos. So therefore, mukminin lei adine b'sheishu metzah. So then the korban hatamid is shechted the earliest ever, which is at 6.5 hours. We learn in the Baraisa. Kisidura b'chol kach sidur b'Shabbos. The way it was arranged during the week. We're talking about the Tamid. Kach Sidur b'Shabbos, did Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says we make no difference. That's why our Mishnah seems to be Rabbi Shmuel, because it made no difference between B'chol bein b'Shabbos, meaning the Tanakam. Rabbi Kiva Oimer, Kisidura be'erev Pesach. That no, it's that it the way you do it is like Erev Pesach. Now, the way you do what? My Kamar. What does the Gemara say? So, Amar Abaya Hachi Kamar. Kisiduro Bachol Be'erev Pesach. Its performance is the way we do it on Monday, Tuesday, which is an Erev Pesach. Kach Sidur B'Shabbos Be'erev Pesach. For example, this year, when Shabbos is Erev Pesach, we want to know how do we do it? The Sidur B'Shabbos Be'erev Pesach is the same as the way you do Erev Pesach on Monday or Tuesday, did Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer, no. Because the way Sidur b'Shabbos Be'erev Pesach is Sidur Be'erev Pesach Shchalios Be'erev Shabbos, Kach Sidur b'Shabbos. The way we advanced it, when Erev Pesach falls on Friday, that's how we do Shabbos. Umas Nisan, our Mishnah that we learned tonight, Diktoni, Bein B'chol Bein b'Shabbos is Rabbi Shmuel. Is clearly the sheet of Rabbi Shmuel, who made no distinction between Shabbos versus Chol. And therefore, in what fundamental principle is Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva arguing? B'mai kamiflagi. B'musafin koydin levazichin kamiflagi. So on Shabbos, besides the Tamid, and besides, for example, when Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, you have to shech the Korban Pesach, you also have the Korban Musaf, that when we say in Musaf, that's the Korban Musaf. The word Musaf means additional. That means additional to what? To the Korban Tami. So on Rosh Chodesh we have a different Musaf. On Shabbos we have a Musaf. On Rosh Hashanah you have a Musaf. You have different Musaf, and that's in Parshas Pinchas. In Sefer Bamidbar you have all the Musafim, all the various additional offerings that were done on those special days. That tells you what the Korban Musaf is. But on Shabbos, if you remember, the Lechem Aponim that was placed on the table from the prior Shabbos is kept on the table the whole week. On top of the Lechem is a Kli with spice. That's called the Bazichin. And Lechem Aponim was like a mincha. So just like a regular mincha, you have flour and oil, and you have to do a kmitza. You have to take some of that flour and oil in your hand, put it in a kli, and then you take that kli and throw it on the fire. That little kmitza that you threw on the fire now allows you to eat the remnants of the mincha. So the same thing, the lechem aponim, you have the baked bread, and then you have the bazichin, that's part of the, so by throwing the bazichin, that's like throwing the kmitza. When you offer the bazichin, you're allowed to eat the lechem aponim. So the question is, when did you throw the bazichin, and when did you do the musaf? The musaf in koydman bazichin kamiflagi. What goes first, the musaf or the bazichin? Now both of them go before the tamid shel bein arba'in. So Rabbi Shmuel Savar musafin koydmin levazichin. First you brought the korban musaf, then you brought the bazichin. So therefore, Avad lo musafin b'sheish. The musaf was done in the 6th hour. Ubazichin b'sheva. The Ovid Leila Tomi B'Shevel Mechza. That's why you advanced it by an hour to Shevel Mechza, because you still had other things to do, the Musaf and the Bazichin. The Kiva Sover Bazichin Koyim the Musafin. No, the Bazichin were offered before the Musaf. And the Bazichin didn't have to be thrown afternoon. Therefore, Bazichin B'Chamesh, Musafin had to be done in the afternoon B'Sheish. The Ovid Leila Tomi B'Sheshu Mechza. The Chora, that's how the Gemara is trying to explain the Bachlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Maski for Rava, Midi, Rabbi Akiva Kisidro, the Erev HaPesach Shchalios Be'erev Shabbos Ktani. He didn't say that. If he said Kisidro Be'erev HaPesach Stomach Ktani, he didn't say Erev Pesach Shchalios Be'erev Shabbos. He said Kisidro Be'erev Pesach Stomach Ktani. Amar Rava Hachikam. As opposed to Abaya, this is how Rava understands their Machlokas. Kisidro B'chol Da'alma, the way the Tamid was offered during the regular day of the week, Kach Sidro B'Shabbos Be'erev Pesach. So is the way the Tamid and the Pesach were offered when Erev Pesach fell on Shabbos. Div Rabbi Shmuel. But Rabbi Kiva Omer, no. Kisidro Be'erev Pesach. The Seder is the way we do it, regular Erev Pesach. Umasnisen diktani, bein b'chol, bein b'Shabbos is Rabbi Kiva. And in this case, b'may kamiflagi, b'michmar psara kamiflagi. Do we worry about meat spoiling? Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Shmuel holds we are concerned about the meat spoiling. And if you were makdim the akrovas atomid on Shabbos, then therefore the akrovas according to Pesach can be done earlier. And you can't broil the meat on Shabbos. You got to wait until, so the meat is going to be sitting around all day, and it's going to get heated up, and it's going to get ruined. And therefore, Rabbi Shmuel leaves the shchitas atomid later to 7.5 hours, because he's concerned that then when we shech the korban Pesach, that meat's going to spoil before we begin roasting it Motzei Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva says, no, we're not concerned about that, and therefore you can still do it earlier, like we normally do. So, so according to Rabbi Kiva, they're not concerned to do it even earlier. According, the Gemara answers, you can't do it because he holds as well. The musaf goes before the bazichin. Otherwise, you would be able to do it 6.5. But instead, since you have to offer the musaf and then the bazichin, you can't bring the bazichin at 5 and do the musaf earlier enough. You got to push up the shchitas atomik to late. Midi kesidro b'chol. The way we arrange everything during the weekday, kach sidro b'Shabbos be'erev Pesach. That's how we do it on Shabbos when Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel Ktani doesn't say that. Kach sidro b'Shabbos stomach Ktani. It doesn't say anything about Erev Pesach. So this I have to understand. This paraisa where we quoted Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Kiva. Kesidro b'chol da'alma. The way we have the Seder on a regular weekday, kach sidro b'Shabbos da'alma. That's the way we do things regularly on a regular Shabbos. That means the way we shech the korban pasach on Tuesday, in terms of their times, that's how we shech the korban atamid on Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva Omer, no. It's kesidro be'erev ha'Pesach da'alma. When the way we do the korban atamid on a regular Shabbos is the way we do it on a regular Erev Pesach, not when it falls on Shabbos, when it falls like on Monday or Tuesday. Kach sidr b'Shabbos da'alma. Umasnisin diktani bein b'chol bein b'Shabbos, that's divrei hakol. That's according to everybody, both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. B'may kamiflagi. The gzeiras nedarim and nedavos kamiflagi. Do we make a gzeira because all of the nedarim and nedavos that have to be brought? Rabbi Shmuel said, Gazrin and Shabbos, Otuchol. Normally in a weekday, we delay the Hakrovas Atomi to 8.5 hours. Why? Because we have a lot of Nedarim and Nedavos that we have to offer. So in order to avoid being confused during a regular weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Rabbi Shmuel says we're Goyzer and Shabbos to do the same thing. So as not to be confused, shechted earlier, and then you might think you shechted earlier during the week, you're not going to have time to offer the Nedarim and the Nedavos. Rabbi Kiva said, no, you're allowed to make a change between Shabbos and Chol. And we don't have to worry. Now, if you don't have to worry, Loi Gazrinan, why does Rabbi Kiva only say you shechted in the 7.5 hour? Do it early. We already said. Rabbi Kiva holds that the korban musaf is offered before the vazich. Therefore, musafin b'sheish, vazichin b'sheva, v'avad the Tomid b'sheva mechza. However, Meis will ask you a kasha. Tomid kol hashana kula karv kilchasu. The korban tomid, the whole year round, is offered according to halachas, which is nishchat b'shmano mechza, the korban teisho mechza. You shechted it 8.5 hours, and you offer it 9.5 hours. Ube'erev Pesach, during the week, nishchat b'shavel mechza, the kar b'shmonu mechza. You shechted 7.5 hours, and karev did b'shmonu mechza. Chalios b'Shabbos. If erev Pesach falls on Shabbos like this year, it makes no difference. It's kachalios b'sheni b'Shabbos Yishmael. Same thing. We shech the korban tamid 7.5 hour, then the 8.5 hour is when you carve it, and then you shech the korban Pesach. And remember, that makes sense because Rabbi Shmuel is concerned about the meat spoiling. Well, hang on. So let's forget about the meat spoiling. That's the way Rabbi Shmuel holds. That it's the same as a regular day of the week. Rabbi Kiva Omer. No,
ask Ernie, 9.5 hours. It could be already dark.
No. 6 o'clock is noon. Between 6 and 12, 6 is noon and 12 is 6 p.m. So 9.5 hours is like 2:30.
It's not real hours.
It's the halachic hours.
It's the divide. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So when I say 9.5, it means you're midway between 6 and 12. The 6th hour of the day is noon. The 12th hour of the day is 6 p.m. We're talking about those. Let's say when the Hilchos Manios, when it's exactly 12 and 12, like the equinox, March 22nd and September 22nd, when night and day are exactly 12 hours.
All right.
Then each 6 hours, the 6th hour is noon, and the 12th hour is
But when you're eating, did they have enough time to eat it from 9.5 hours on?
Remember, you only eat at night. You can't eat it in the day.
Midday.
So again, remember, the Korban Pesach, the Tamid was shechted.
The Korban Pesach, you never ate at night. No, you ate it at night too?
Ate at night. You shechted it in the day. Remember, because you can't do shechita and zrika at night. So they all went to the Beis HaMikdash. They shechted their Korban Pesach, did zrika sadam, brought the meat home, and started roasting it. They could only eat it at night. It was all done at night. You couldn't eat it before. So that's why we said by Shabbos, when Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, so first of all, on Friday, they moved everything up by an hour because after you shech the Korban Pesach, they had to roast it completely before Shabbos started. So then it was ready. Now on Shabbos, you couldn't roast it at all. They had to wait until the nightfall to roast the Korban Pesach and then eat it. So that's why there was that debate between Rabbi Shmuel. Are we worried that the meat is going to get ruined? Could Rabbi Shmuel? No. Could Rabbi Kiva? Yes. That's why by shechting it, Korban Pesach, shechting the Korban Atomid later, then you could shech the Korban Pesach later, and then there wouldn't be that much time letting the meat sit around until you could start roasting it. Okay. So Bishmal Abaya Nicha. So the way Abaya explained it works. El Rava Kasha. Amlach Rava Loy Tema Kechal B'Sheni B'Shabbos. Don't say Kechal like Monday. El Ema Kesheni Lo Tema Kechal B'Sheni B'Shabbos. El Ema Kesheni B'Shabbos Da Alma. Not like a regular Sheni B'Shabbos. If Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, we don't make a change, and you do it exactly the way you normally do in the regular weekday. Meisvei. So Chalios b'Shabbos, if Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, Kisidro Kol Hashana Kula de Rabbi Shmuel, then the Talmud was shechted the normal way, like you do the whole year. No, we did it the way we normally do in Erev Pesach. So here, Bishmol Ravanicha, Labaya Kasha, Amachabaya, Lo Tema Kisidro Kol Hashana, Ela Ema, Kisidro Kol Hashanin Kulon, all the remaining years, many other years. Shemesh Shanin being Erev Pesach, Shechalios B'Shabbos, L'chal B'Shar Yimei Hashana. And then you still shechted on the 7.5 hour, like Abaya said. And Rabbi Kiva Omer consider of a Pesach Shechalios be'erev Shabbos. Period. Ton Rabbanon minayin shlo yadover kodem letamid shel shachar. How do you know that nothing can be offered prior to the tamid in the morning? Talmud loyma v'arach alea ha'oila. So the Gemara says, "My Talmud, where do you see in that pasuk that nothing can be offered before?" Amar Rava ha'oila ola rishona. That means it has to be offered first. How do you know that nothing can be offered after Bein Arbaim except for the Korban Pesach? Talmud loymar v'hiktir aleh chelvei shlamim. So the Gemara asks, my Talmud, where do you see in those words that nothing can be offered after the Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim? Omer Abaya aleh shlamim v'lo al chaver shlamim. You cannot offer another shlamim after. But that only limits your din to shlamim. That maybe you can't offer a shlamim after the korban atamim. Maybe you could offer oilos. Amarava hashlamim, and we darshan alea hashlam kol hapornas kulam. Meaning, on this korban, the korban atamim shel bein arbaim, all the korbanos stop and nothing else. The halacha in the Rambam is, we bring the korban tamid on Shabbos at 8.5 hours, like every day. He paskins like Rava, not like Abaya, which we know. We only paskin like Abaya in 6 places, Yal Kagam. What other halacha? By Shabbos, we do the bezichin first. Pasuk Rambam Kedivri Abaya. B'Shabbos makrivin shnei bzichei halavona haboim lechem aponim ima musafi. You do it with the musaf prior to the nisuch hayayin of the musaf. And here the Rambam is going like Abaya, the way Abaya holds in Yuma, that the musaf goes before the bazichin.
Is there Inyan Tod here, or is it all the same? It's the same thing in the Chol. Is it done the same time?
By the way, Me'ikar Adin, you could offer the Korban Atomid as early as 6.5 hours. But normally they did it 8.5 hours, 2.5 hours after Chatzos, like we said. And then you were makriv in the 19.5. I like the Mishnah. The Erev Pesach, where they bring the Korban Pesach afterwards, you shechted it 7.5 hours. You makriv it in the 8.5 hours. But if Erev Pesach falls Erev Shabbos, then they brought it to 6.5 hours in order to be able to roast the Korban Pesach earlier. So it's exactly like the Mishnah. Okay, so tomorrow, we did tomorrow's daf tonight. So tomorrow we'll learn